Hebrews 13, let's go back to verse 15. Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise. Didn't talk about this, but I think it would be more than just worth it. It's probably important that this two words, through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise. So what does that look like? Through Jesus. Is that through some kind of incantation? How do we? Well, I think it comes down to Jesus as our mediator. And Paul talked about that to Timothy. But imagine, maybe don't even imagine, but ponder that Jesus, he really is our mediator. And so through him, whatever we do in terms of worship, service, sacrifice, he is the mediator. Okay, just a thought. We offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name. Then he goes on, and do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices, God is pleased. One big thing that I see here. It's easy to sing those songs and say the phrasing, and it's good when it comes from our heart and it's, genuine and sincere and real. But if there's nothing else, I'm not sure. Well, I think this is why the writer says, and don't forget to do the things. Okay, through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name in verse 16, and do not forget to do good and to share with others. For with such sacrifices, God is pleased. I'm going to split hairs here a minute and say, he said, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, which is the fruit of lips that openly profess his name. And he doesn't necessarily say anything else about offering our sacrifice of praise. But with this, if I'm getting this right, and I'm just trying to be as literal as I can, don't forget to do good and to share with others. For with such sacrifices, God is pleased. Okay. I'm not saying God's not pleased with the sacrifice of our lips, giving him a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of our lips. No, I'm done with a sincere heart. I'm sure it pleases him. He's our Father. And what good father is not pleased when his children adore him? Okay, but it'd be easy to camp out there. So I'm not going to, though. What I want to camp out a little bit on is don't forget to do good. Let's start here. I think the reason he said don't forget is because often we do. I do. I get where my daily obligations and commitments are front and center. My calendar, although doesn't scream at me anymore, but there was a time in my life my calendar just screamed at me from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. And I think you can probably relate to that. And in the midst of that, it's easy to forget some important things. To do good. Remember to do good and share with others. Now, let's talk about do good and share with others, because he seems to make those two separate things. To do good, this word good is a moral word. And it's about, well, Paul said, whatever is good, think on these things. So what's good? I think what it has to do with is there are many things that we can do and should do for others that is for, it comes out of our moral obligation. Okay, and then there's this other side of good. Good for who? Psychologically, this is a very important question. Good for who or whom? Well, let's down on the ground level. I think it should be for the good of the person to whom I am doing good, right? Think about this. There's a lot of intentioned good in the world that doesn't quite get there. And part of the reason is because the motive was not for the good of the person, but was for the good of the doer, right? It happens. And you don't have to be this megalomaniac, this egomaniac for that to happen. There are times when I do good because it feels good to me. I don't necessarily think that's a sin, but I do know this. Again, I'll point back to the psychological aspects of this. If I do good because it makes me feel good, that can be legitimate if what the good that I am doing that makes me feel good is truly good for the recipient. I'm guessing all of us have been around, have relatives, family members, maybe we have been, or maybe to a degree we still are, codependent. Codependency is fostered and nurtured by generally by well-intentioned people who want to do good for the other, but it's not making it. In fact, there comes a point where all it does is it nurtures the codependency. And you become, if you do this, a negative enabler. All right, I don't want to be that. I want to do good. I mean, real good, for the right reasons. Okay, I think that everybody who tunes in here, I'm pretty sure that's all three of you. I'm sure that's in your heart as well. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to offer just some suggestions and take them or leave them. It might work for you. They might sound just dumb. And if they sound just dumb, then don't worry about it. But if, for instance, for me to help someone, the best good I can do for them is what is truly good for them. Now, if you're a parent, think about when you're raising your kids. There are things that they wanted that, you just couldn't do because it wasn't good for them. I can stay up later because I'll get up. It'll all be fine. You got to be careful with that. Every once in a while, maybe, but if you're not careful, it'll become routine. Well, okay, So that's just one little thing. How do you know what's truly good for the other person? The most significant way and the most effective way to know what is good for the other person is to know the other person. You can't know that about everybody. And so I'm not talking about everybody now. I'm talking about people close to you. Let's start with that. How do you get to know them? You don't tell them who they are. You discover who they are. And in that process, you are probably, if you're insightful, you're probably going to discover what they need. But even before you start that, I think it's a smart thing to pray and ask God for wisdom to be able to discern what is truly good for that person. When it gets out past the individual into groups, then I think it takes a lot of wisdom and a lot of insight, some of which is the result of study and others' input, the study of human nature, and observation. What do people generally need? Well, if you had any kind of a college course on psychology, you've heard of Maslow's. No, that was Maslow's dogs. No, that was Pavlov's dogs. So it is Maslow's hierarchy of need. We need certain things. And the bottom of his hierarchy is just physical safety, things like shelter, food, clothing, and then moves up to emotional security as well as physical security. And his ended with self-actualization, which, in my opinion, falls short because I think the top is, for lack of a better term, God actualization. What do I need most of all? Once these primary physical needs are met, then my top need is to know God. Okay, I'm going to lob a grenade here. I love the church we get to go to, the Crossing here in Las Vegas. I love its pastors. I love the DNA of it, except for one thing, and that is the way they do the light show for the worship time. Sorry. In my opinion, the point of worship ought to be to direct people to God, to help focus their attention on Him. Lights in my eyes don't do that. Why did I bring that up? Well, it's because when you don't think well, you don't think deeply, you don't ponder the broad needs of a group, you wind up doing something you want to do. And so, okay, whatever, I'm an old guy, I'll get over it, but I don't like it. Now, what I got to do is, I have to ask myself, so how do I do good to these people back at the tech desk who are doing something I really get? It wrecks my moments. I mean, okay, already said enough about it, but how do I do them good? Well, I got to get to know them first. I have to ask God for discernment on what do they need? Well, everybody in your life is not so lovable that you just are naturally inclined to do good to them. Well, I don't see anything here that gives like an alternative or is about doing this for people you like. No. This is harsh. When I first read it, I recoiled, but then I realized it's the truth. You love Jesus as much as you love the person that you love the least. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to shut her down. That's enough. See you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.